work like the hot tubs in the Playboy Mansion, teeming with life and overflowing with DNA.
Oh my god. Seeing some of you guys mention NAKAI the Wanderer as your favorite leader, and just from his name, I'm going to hazard a guess and say that he's more of like a horde faction leader.
Welcome to a noob's guide to NAKAI the Wanderer. This is NAKAI the Wanderer. Oh, hold on.
Where is he?
Okay, there he is. This is NAKAI the Wanderer. He travels the world in search of bubblegum and asses to kick, and there's no bubblegum in Warhammer. This gnarled Kroxigor has spent a millennia meandering across Lustria like...
Dude, look at the scars on this man. He looks so badass. And I think from the cinematic trailers, he was in the DLC, where they were kind of parodying Jurassic Park. That was a fun one.
Pin from Fist to the North Star, punching anybody his way so hard they explode, and then probably eating them because, you know, he's a walking crocodile. Kroxigor are one of the core species of the lizardmen, and like the skinks, they're the bottom-rung laborers born to a life of toil and pseudo-slavery. But apparently Kroxigors are the first spawning had a lower bullshit tolerance, because after his first battle, NAKAI said balls to all of that and went on the lam, deciding to go on permanent walkabout, because there's only so many times you can tell a giant crocodile to go didgeridoo something before they didgeridoo-don't. In NAKAI's case, he was told to hold the Bridge of Stars against an invading Chaos army, and like the Viking at Stamford Bridge, he proved that numbers don't really count for much at choke points. And after 3 days of autoerotic asphyxiation, the hordes of Chaos decided that maybe it was better to go be evil somewhere else, preferably far, far away from NAKAI.
That's great. That's awesome. But it's interesting to learn this. I guess maybe, well, it's probably not as bad of a system as like the Skaven and like the Skaven slaves who are just literally just cannon fodder. But yeah, depending on the type of lizardman that you are, you're probably gonna be put into a particular class within their society, looks like. Man, respect to NAKAI the Wanderer here though, for climbing out of that with just brute strength.
Then, like all good action heroes, NAKAI turned his back on the explosion and disappeared into the jungle, reappearing from it again only when a scrap of truly epic proportions is brewing. Sometimes the only warning an isolated lizardman temple has of an impending attack is when this absolute unit is seen sunbathing outside the walls. Naturally armored from head to toe, NAKAI's body is a patchwork of scars and golden trophies. Little thank yous hammered into his thick scales by grateful skinks for saving them at the 11th hour like some sort of scaly Gandalf. But when you rock balls as big as Carnosaurs, you can only slink off into the background unnoticed so many times. And now, though he fights alone, NAKAI is saddled with a flying circus of followers and hangers-on, a literal horde of would-be worshippers and sycophants, piling into their hatchbacks to shadow his tour of cross-country destruction, pausing only long enough to bathe daily in Axe body spray, which makes NAKAI the lizardmen's only horde faction in the game. And since horde factions in Total War games have typically fared about as well as the US men's team in the World Cup, CA decided to mix it up a bit. Now you'll have one main horde that lets you construct ways to recruit units, and any additional armies will then steal from that one using the global recruitment tool.
I watched Mandalore's video on Total War Warhammer 2 about these horde factions, and a lot of you guys have said they fixed a lot of these things. I guess when it comes to horde factions, it can be pretty fun, especially if you don't like the more city management or territory management side of the game, and you can just focus on the battles. So I do see the appeal. Hopefully in Warhammer 3 they might have balanced all of this out and it feels much more fun than it was in 2. Because personally, I haven't touched the game myself, so I don't really know what my kind of style would be.
Think about it like the show The Walking Dead, where your other hordes, Fear the Walking Dead and Talking Dead, only exist so long as the original hype does. So it's a good thing NAKAI is basically an immortal battering ram. But if you want to set a speed record for raw dogging Lustria, you can't be bothered by things like food, sleep, STDs, or building management. The defenders of the Great Plan sound like a third-rate cult, but as your personal pocket vassal faction, you just hand over any cities you conquer to them and they do the hard.
Oh, suddenly captured, so you just give it to one of the other lizardmen? I guess that works out. You get different bonuses for doing that too?
You just wander around and show up at the first of month for your cut of the cash. It lets you keep on rocking while your skink groupies follow in your wake and clean up your sloppy seconds like those tiny fish that attach to the bottom of sharks that I can't be asked to look up the name of. Each city can then be refounded to a god of the old ones, with the left one giving you bonuses to douchey Saurus warriors, the middle one boosting virgin sland wizards, and the right one injecting even more steroids into the already Chad Croxagores. But if you are already smart enough to pick the Alpha Crocodile NAKAI to play, it's really no contest which guides you back here. But as a hippy-dippy wandering horde faction, you can't trade with anyone, since boxes labeled somewhere on the Amaxon River isn't exactly a location. That means to gain income, you'll need to loot, sack, eat, and teabag anything in your path. So I hope you bookmark the answers to this land puzzle boxes, because seriously, who designed these? You need—
What is that? You... What? I can't make heads or tails of this. Do you like try to connect the blue color lines to the blue ones or the yellow ones to the yellow ones? There's a similar system to this in Mechanicus, which we're streaming here on the YouTube channel. Like there are different glyphs, and some of the glyphs, if you like memorize them, they're like they give you good things, and other ones give you bad effects. But eventually, like, the Mechanicus learn, and the good ones are highlighted, the bad ones are red. This one, I might not have that kind of mechanic, and I feel like it would probably just be best to, like, look up a guide, since this is likely a 1 in 4 chance. Unless you're willing to sit here and actually figure this out, which I don't really know where to start with this.
Photoshop to find the answer. With yet another starting position in Lustria, you'll get sick of these things by the time you finish taking over the continent. But with a number of vacant ruins around, clearly absolutely not inhabited by ratmen, your start should be super easy. But on a mortal
Okay. Well, there's the answer. I think the Skaven have a particular thing with them where whenever they occupy a city, it doesn't look like they occupy it on the overworld map, and it's just ruins. But, you know, they're there in the Undercity and whatnot. So yeah, it looks like if you're gonna play the Lizardmen, you're gonna have to beat down all the rats around you first.
Empire's campaign, NAKAI typically dies around turn 15, because he starts way across the ocean on the foggy island of Albion. Nothing says home to a crocodile like year-round fog and rain, because, you know, one time the Slan wizard Mazamundi thought it would be funny to zap NAKAI across the ocean, make him fight in a battle royale to control the island, and then leave his ass there. Oh hey, look, NAKAI wandered off again. I'm starting to think there's a pattern forming here. There comes a certain point when you have to accept not all who wander are lost, and they may just be avoiding you. If you start a Vortex campaign though, he somehow managed to swim all the way back home again, and now has an army of conquistadors to deal with. Your campaign objective though is refreshingly straightforward. These 4 a-holes here are plundering your home. Go deal with them, and then when you've turned them into crocodile dung, do the same thing to their boss, Fuzzy Legolas. And to help you chew that suspiciously toned backside, you'll get a few new units to play with. Surprising no one, the Croxagore Lord gets new Croxagores, except now they're sacred, which means they stole the gauntlet from Doomfist and Overwatch and then put them on both hands and banged them together so that they spark lightning. It's about impossible to describe these guys in PG-13 or less. With these sacred Crocs, you've got monsters ready to charge in and put their fists so deep in the enemy, so they'll take both.
Yeah, I was wondering where we were going with that. I see Cody is another man of culture.
Hands and spread those. You know what? Forget it. You use sacred Croxagores to charge in and pound the enemy until they can't take it anymore. How's that? NAKAI then buffs the hell out of these guys and is meant to make an already powerful penetrator into the John Holmes special. And with new technology that gives fear and even more stats, you can trample whatever comes your way without bothering with things like strategy. But they do tend to get kited if you're not careful. So if you need to plink from range, the new Razor Dawn hunting pack looks like someone heard a vague description of a porcupine. I mean, they look cool, but they're not exactly riveting content. They're just salamanders with armor piercing. The unit everyone is excited about, though, is this behemoth.
Yeah, I think this is like the biggest unit in the entire game thus far. Like even in Warhammer 3, Pretty sure, like, it's just these guys who have the largest mass.
Dread Saurian. It comes in 2 flavors, feral and one-man army. It's big, it has teeth, it munches things just like a carnosaur except at twice the size. The feral Dread Saurian is like someone asked an artist what's cooler than a T-Rex, and because that's impossible, they just drew a dragon. Well, Drake technically, because it doesn't have wings, and that's a fandom you do not want to rile. But the non-feral Dread Saurian is where it's at. It even gets a howdah on its back. That's the word for the tiny house on the back of elephants. It comes from the Arabic word for bed carried by a camel, which comes from the American word for homeless and living out of your camel, but you don't know
true.
Dread Saurians have all the teeth, plus some skinks with blowpipes on their backs, meaning you can stick these suckers in and basically let them go to town. And they don't rampage, which is the big drawback to NAKAI's armies in general. Everything goes berserk and rampages. So in his campaign, it's a matter of pulling a Mike Tyson and biting as many people as possible before they stop you. I mean, it kind of blows that NAKAI doesn't get any buffs to Dread Saurians, but he's meant to elevate Kroxigors out of the suck, so you can't really blame him. And you know you're in a good place when giant man-eating crocodiles are your least interesting unit. I mean,
yeah, right? I can just imagine. Like, if you can get to a certain point in the campaign where you just have, like, an entire stack of these, well, what are they called? Dread Saurians? And just march straight into the enemy, like, what are they gonna do, right? Like, what are they gonna do? They're just gonna get eaten. Oh, man. That would be so cool to see. Probably incredibly impractical and not a very good decision. Well, I don't really know how that works, but I would assume that having a good balance of units might be better, but yeah, it just looks cool.
They're 2-ton murder machines with a finishing move called the Death Roll. But Kroxigors have always gotten the short end of the lore stick in Warhammer. I mean, they're described as oversized, dim-witted brutes. And the new Ancient Kroxigor General unit is ruffling feathers online because suddenly people believe you can't just be a strong idiot and lead an army, though somehow this doesn't apply to the likes of Lubu, Achilles, Ajax, or insert your favorite world leader here. The real problem here is that Warhammer lore is sometimes dumb, and nobody wants to admit it, and I can't really blame CA for wanting to change it. The best example I can give is that the Lizardmen temples are, and I kid you not, giant stone spaceships, and the Lizardmen themselves are all clones who generate from a BS primordial goop matrix that they stole from the crappy Superman origin story of the 1980s, which basically means that the spawning pools of the Lizardmen work like the hot tubs in the Playboy Mansion, teeming with life and overflowing with DNA.
Oh my god. Okay, well, that's actually a great analogy. Oh man, Cody. What a great line. But yeah. I heard from you guys, was it Lord Croak or was it Mazdamundi, that apparently, like, during the end times, they are still there in Age of Sigmar, because they blasted off in their pyramid, like, spaceships, their temple spaceships. So that line didn't faze me, but yeah. I would say that Warhammer lore, it's fine if it's dumb, as long as it's cool and epic. Like, I'm not really looking for the intricacies of really incredible world building, even though I would say that Warhammer's world building is pretty awesome, and I'm really enjoying myself. But, like, I wouldn't want to sacrifice cool over that. Like, dinosaurs riding on dinosaurs into battle with the literal hand of God on its right hand, and shooting laser beams from its left hand, and, you know, all that stuff, right? Don't need a logical explanation for it if it's cool, but I do appreciate it if there is one.
I can only guess that Games Workshop went with this because actual lizard procreation is too graphic for delicate English sensibilities. See, lizards have not one, but 2 semi-wangs, meaning they can inflate them from inside their bodies and go from 0 to threesome in less time than it takes you to say censored. So instead, they now spawn fully formed from magic pools. And implying otherwise would violate the Great British Firewall and threaten to throw throw society into such a tizzy not seen since that one time Reginald forgot to offer biscuits at tea, and I just know it was because of what Aunt Deidre said about his Timothy last week. Or maybe lizardmen are like trout and they can only breed in their own birthplace. I don't know. This is a world where dinosaurs can teleport and chainmail bikinis count as armor. But this DLC finally makes Kroxigors the feared ambush predator they were always meant to be, and NAKAI himself an inhuman incarnation of the wrath of the jungle, charging out from the green death with perfect vigor for himself and his army when he gets his golden tributes. NAKAI proves not only that CA doesn't hate lizardmen, but they are in fact their favorite faction and are shown disgusting amounts of favoritism. But should you play as NAKAI? Well, if you're given a fresh hot apple pie, do you want to slam your face into it and go to town? If so,
yes.
NAKAI's your croc.
Hell yeah.
Okay, there he goes again. I feel like that one was my fault. That was one pun too many. Anywho, thanks for watching, and NAKAI is available as part of the Hunter and the Beast DLC for Warhammer 2, releasing on September 11th. Can somebody put a LoJack on this guy? Jesus.
I was a bit worried about NAKAI because Mandalore did talk about how the Horde factions are kind of bad, but they have been fixed, and I mean, NAKAI just looks awesome, and Cody has a lot of positive things to say about him, so like, yeah, I'd definitely be down. Gotta save up some money first, but like, with that DLC, damn. Getting those giant dinosaurs and the Kroxigors that can just destroy you, absolutely annihilate you with their Thunder Fist. Like, yeah, those are really cool designs. I love this a lot. Of course, if you haven't already, go and support Cody. Link is in the description. And if you want to see more Warhammer, check out the playlist that has magically appeared on screen. Thanks for watching, and catch you in the next one.